You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Braves POSTCAST, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Grant McAuley, Jake Mastroianni with you on a Monday as the Braves rolled into not-so-sunny Chicago, but the result was nice and sunny. It was rainbows and butterflies and all the good feelings that a 9-0 win can provide as the Braves were able to open up on the winning foot on the second leg of their road trip, all these puns intended, as they open up this 2024 season, looking to bring a winning record home from the road. Well, they won 3 out of their first 4. That's a good way to do it. We got a lot of great stuff to talk about in this edition of the show. The performance of Charlie Morton, still more offense from this Braves lineup. We shouldn't be surprised, and everybody got into the act on Monday as well. 9-0 over the Chicago White Sox in what was ultimately an 8-inning game, something we don't see too terribly often either. We're going to get into all of those great things, but before we get started, I want to remind you to leave us those likes, those comments. Make sure you share the show with a friend and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Just head over to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Jake, we've kind of wondered, at least with the weather, if the Braves and the White Sox were going to get started this afternoon. They were able to and play most of a game, and I would say that the Braves liked pretty much all of the outcomes, both offensively and on the mound.
Yeah, you didn't know coming into today, like you said, if they were going to get it in, but the Braves offense and the Braves pitching staff as well came in, and they're certainly glad they did with the great win that they had and looked really, really good against the White Sox team that we talked about yesterday. An opportunity to come in, take advantage, pick up some wins before you go back home.
You really do. I mean, you want to win every series, but you look at some and you feel like, okay, well, this should line up for a series victory, and you don't want to leave any of those on the table. I know that's going to happen over the course of 162 games. We saw a Braves team that won 104 games last year lose a series in Oakland. I mean, stranger things have happened. And with the weather, you kind of wondered if that might be an X factor in how this one was going to play out. But when all was said and done, Charlie Morton was sharp. The Braves offense remained red hot despite the temperatures and pounded out, 11 hits on their way to a 9-0 victory in 8 innings on Monday. Let's start with the Braves offense because I don't know that there's much better place. But, Jake, you look up and down the order. Everyone got into the act today. Everyone collected at least one base hit, and the extra base hits, those continue to pile up.
They did, and on a day where it was going to be tough to get balls out of the park. Look, I think under normal weather conditions, Ozzie might have hit 3 home runs today, but it was really tough to leave the yard. Very impressive that Riley did it later in the game going opposite field. So the Braves, I think, had to adjust their approach a little bit against Flexen. Didn't really get much against them that first time through. Second time through, made some adjustments, started piling those hits together, and you just see this offense work, and they can do it in so many ways, and you love to see it. Everybody getting a hit, everybody contributing up and down the lineup. Darno with a big hit, Orlando Arcia with a big 2 RBI hit as well. It's just what this offense can do to you. But what I loved about them in this game is just the fact that, like I said, long ball was kind of taken away because of the weather, the cool weather, the wind, and all the conditions, and they were still able to grind out at bats, get some walks, string some hits together, keep the line moving to put up another big number.
Yeah, they did. Let's go inside the line score of this one. 9 runs, 11 hits, no errors for the Braves, who pick up the win and improve to 3-1 on the year. Just 3 hits as the White Sox were shut out. No errors for them either. They are winless on the season now, 0-4. Charlie Morton picks up the win in his first start of the season. Did not allow a run in 5 2/3 innings. We'll talk a lot more about that later. He is 1-0, and Chris Flexen is 0-1 as the Braves bandied him about for 4 earned runs in 4 1/3 innings. It started slowly, but then, Jake, I think to your point, the Braves offense got started and just kept adding and kept adding and kept adding. 1 run in the third, 2 in the fourth, 1 in the fifth, 2 more in the sixth. Then the Austin Riley 3-run homer in the 8th inning when the weather was starting to get so dicey that you kind of wondered if they really needed to finish this thing up, or at 9-0, they could go ahead and call this thing. And ultimately, that's what happened. But the Braves offense was able to do its thing, and just up and down the order, multi-hit games for Ozzie Albies and Austin Riley. But everyone in the order collected at least one base hit, and Riley with his 3-run homer finished with 4 runs knocked in on the day. I think we can talk about a different Braves slugger, a different Braves player that could be a featured part of this offense. We might as well spend a little time on Austin Riley today because, as you mentioned, with the weather being what it was, pretty impressive to see him hit that 3-run homer late.
Yeah, and like I said, opposite field too. I mean, you saw Ozzie hit several that way that just died at the warning
Mhm.
track, wasn't able to get out. So for Riley to be able to do that opposite field with that strength shows you just how strong that he is. And I think it's hard to say you need it, but didn't have the best of series in that opening series against Philadelphia. But to see him, have a big game like this and contribute that way, knocking in 4 runs, getting the 3-run homer to really just put it away late after that rain delay. Good for him. You want those moments early in the season. Everybody's trying to fill
Mhm.
things out, get into the groove of a new season. Everybody wants to get that first home run, that first hit, all of those things. Riley, this was kind of his game, I think, to kind of settle things down, get into the groove of the season. And I'm expecting big year from him as well. We talked about Michael Harris yesterday. I think he's looking to have a big season, but Austin Riley's another one. And like a great year last year. We've
Mhm.
talked about it, but I think there's still more in the tank for Austin Riley, and I can't wait to see what else that he can do this year.
Yeah, it's just so interesting that you can look at a different game, different series, a different month perhaps, and see somebody that really, really gets it going. And when we think about Austin Riley, really establishing himself as a big league player, an MVP candidate as the Braves won the World Series in 2021, then he just went out of his mind in the summer of 2022 with just a monster month of July. I believe he set the extra base hits record for a single month for the Braves franchise. That is no small feat when you consider some of the guys who have put on a Braves uniform over 150, 3 years now. Pretty impressive stuff. And you can expect that, I think, from Austin Riley. 3 consecutive 30 home run seasons already for him, looking for at least a 4th this year, possibly more. I know I talked a lot about Michael Harris being my breakout candidate for this year as well. I've also been kind of on this train of one of these years. I think Austin Riley is going to lead the National League in home runs. Maybe this is the year. I don't know, but you got to start somewhere. And home run number 1 on Monday is a good way to start it. One of his 2 hits on the day. Ozzie Albies, another 2-hit game for him. You mentioned that he was really, hitting the ball hard again, but great to see that Ozzie, nestled right in between Ronald Acuna Jr. and Austin Riley, is right in the middle of a lot of stuff. He homered in back-to-back games in Philadelphia, heading into this one with 2 more hits. And then you look at just up and down the order, lots of runs scored, lots of RBIs, either one or the other for just about everybody. But I'm also looking down there at the bottom. Jarred Kelenic, 1 for 4. He has continued to hit safely in each one of the Braves' 4 games, including a pinch hit a pinch hit double on Sunday against the Philadelphia Phillies. I think we're starting to see graphics and videos also of this on social media, just how different and how effective Jarred Kelenic's swing could be in 2024 now that he has worked in the Braves laboratory, the Braves hitting environment.
And it's honestly really impressive that, look, he's been here, at least with the coaching staff, a little over a month now, and he's already starting to make these adjustments and these swing changes, which, like, I'm not a Major League Baseball player, but I can't imagine it's that easy when
Right.
you hit one way for most of your career. And I'm sure every hitter, makes tweaks and adjustments. But I mean, this is again, you can look at the side by sides and the videos. I know they showed during the broadcast, or some out there on social media as well, showing the changes from his swing when he came up to now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just drastically different what the Braves are trying to do with him. And you're seeing some results. So I think you got to give a lot of credit to him. I'm sure it was a frustrating spring training trying to make these adjustments on the fly like that, not getting the results that you want early on, but then sticking with it, trusting the coaching staff. That's putting a lot of trust in the coaching staff. I like what they said on the broadcast today, talking about Kevin Seitzer, how he loved just talking with him and getting to know the person first before getting into those changes, and said, Seitzer spoke very highly of him, saying he thinks he could be a very good player in the league for a long time. I mean, that says a lot for one of the better hitting coaches in all of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of credit to Jarred Kelenic for just sticking with it, even when he wasn't seeing the results early on. And now I think we are starting to finally see him make some of those changes, and hopefully he's going to take off and have a big year.
Yeah, I mean, what's the old saying? Trust the process. You have to when you're going to make those changes. If you go right back to what it was before, even if you had some success with that, if it's not ultimately fueling the long-term, viability of being able to establish yourself as a big league player, if you've already tried it that way and it hasn't yielded those results, then I think you owe it to yourself to really put in everything that you can to making those adjustments. And I think Jarred Kelenic has done that. One other stat that I thought was fun for the Braves offense on this day as we continue here on the Braves postcast, and we'll get into the pitching side of things in a moment after we take a break. But 5 more doubles and the Austin Riley home run, that gives 6 more extra base hits to the Braves offense, 17 doubles now, the most in the majors. And Jake, there's a couple of clubs that have played quite a few more games than the Braves already early on. But the doubles, I think, are going to end up turning into homers by the time the weather heats up.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, that's typically what you see early in the year. And that's why sometimes I think this Braves offense can get off to a bit of a slow start because the ball's just not flying as much in colder weather earlier in the year. And then it seems like once summer comes around, those balls are leaving the yard. So it's good to see them be able to get those doubles. But like you said, those are most likely going to turn into home runs once the weather heats up a little bit, or hopefully they come back home because it's been nice weather here. Obviously, while they're on the road, that's just the way things work. But again, being able to get those doubles, I think RC already has 4 of them. So the Braves just kind of racking up those extra base hits early on.
Yep, certainly take it, batting well over 300 as a team. And after scoring, 25 runs against the Philadelphia Phillies, tacked 9 more runs on the board for the Braves offense in game 1 of the 3-game set against the Chicago White Sox. Now, the guy who was keeping the runs off the board was Charlie Morton. We're going to talk about his start. Also, a couple of Braves lefties who are now healthy, who are getting themselves back into the mix in that bullpen. Great to see Tyler Matzik and Dylan Lee involved in this Braves win as well. We'll talk about that as the Braves postcast continues. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney, whether you're betting on a big upset or the number 1 seed. It's time to go dancing on America's number 1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Are you struggling to close deals? Business-to-business selling is tougher than ever, and that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals like job changes and what accounts you should prioritize, and then shows you all the hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon to get started. All right, let's talk about the Braves pitching staff, which was also on display in Chicago. We knew that the 40-year-old veteran Charlie Morton was going to come back and hopefully be a big contributor the way he has been the past few years to the Braves' overall rotation. It's a lot different now, Jake, than it was when Charlie Morton signed prior to 2021, when I think maybe the expectation was he could lead this staff. At this point, he's either the number 4 or maybe the number 3 starter because the Braves have built a very impressive quartet alongside Spencer Strider, Max Fried, and the newcomer Chris Sale. We'll talk about Reynaldo Lopez a little bit later, but first impressions of Charlie Morton in 2024 are that he continues to hold back the hands of time. 5 2/3 shutout innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts for the veteran. I call him Charles Entertainment Morton, and this was an entertaining outing for Mr. Morton.
It was. And what I loved about this outing for Charlie Morton is the fact that he struggled in that first inning, was struggling with command, didn't know if he was going to get through it. I talked about on the postcast yesterday, I was worried about him coming into this start because of the conditions and him really needing a grip for those secondaries. And he really struggled with the command on those secondaries early on. So what did he do? He started to lean on the 4-seam fastball. And it's not like the velocity on it was high at all. It averaged 94 or 93.2 miles per hour, rather, down almost 2 miles per hour from last year. Not concerned about that, obviously, with the conditions. But what was impressive, he had a 50% whiff rate on the 4-seam fastball, 7 whiffs on 14 swings. So when he really didn't have the grip on that curveball or the changeup early on, the veteran that he is started throwing that fastball, was able to locate it well, and just kind of leaned on that pitch until he was able to work things out with that curveball. Ultimately kind of got a better handle on that, and it allowed him to improve. I thought he got better as the game went on, but I love the fact that in this start, Charlie Morton just really didn't have his curveball and changeup and was able to pivot to that fastball, locate it, and was able to get some big strikeouts, got out of a first inning jam, had a little jam in the second as well. And after that, again, I thought he looked better and better as the outing went on.
Yeah, 91 pitches for Charlie Morton in his first outing of the year. I think that was a high for a Braves pitcher thus far in the very early going. As you mentioned, with the weather, completely not worried about the velocities, and particularly thinking this is also the longest outing for Charlie Morton thus far this year. You kind of build up to that, and I think he's got plenty left in the tank. He showed that throughout the course of spring training. It's about, I think, working smarter and not harder. When you're 40 years old, you should have figured out quite a few things that work. And to your point, if the curveball, the secondaries just in general weren't getting the job done, being able to rely on fastball location and precision and navigate through that until which time you're able to maybe unlock something with another pitch. That's what the good ones do. That's what the veterans typically are able to do. And Charlie Morton is both of those things. Just a really solid outing for him. And you knew that the Braves, they needed to have as many of these as they could get, because once the bullpen got taxed so much in the second game of the season, and I know they have an off day on Thursday, you just wanted to make sure that you were able to reset things. Chris Sale and now Charlie Morton have given the Braves exactly what they needed in back-to-back starts, I think, to get the bullpen back on track.
Yeah, big starts, obviously, for both of them after, again, what happened on Saturday. And you need that. And look, you don't know what's going to happen these next 2 days, if you're going to be able to get games in or not. But certainly to be able, and with the shortened game, this also helped as well.
Sure.
Kind of not have to use some of those bullpen arms. But again, I know we'll talk about it, Lee and Matzik, what they were able to do coming in. But the two starters, Sale and Morton, being able to give length at this time of the year when pitchers are maxing out usually at around 85, 90 pitches. So great stuff from Charlie Morton. Thought he probably could have gone even deeper, but like you said, first start of the year, not going to push it as he continues to ramp back up. But being able to work into the sixth inning, 1 out away from going 6 scoreless, just a great outing by Charlie overall.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, an outlier start for Max Fried in game 2. We don't have to keep going back to that over and over, but I expect a lot bigger and better things from him as he gets to start in the home opener come Friday. But either way, thus far on the road trip, the Braves have been able to put up enough offense to back things up in the starting rotation for the most part, outside of what Fried had to deal with. And I know there were circumstances that maybe were a little out of his control. The Braves pitching staff has been able to get that job done, and that is how you're able to win 3 out of your first 4 games. Bullpen has been a huge part of that. How about Dylan Lee and Tyler Matzik coming in for scoreless relief? Lee with an inning and a third, a couple of strikeouts for him, hitless, walkless ball. And then you had Tyler Matzik come in and strike out the side in his 1 inning. I'm not going to throw it all on the conditions and it being a bad day, but I'll tell you, a sight for sore eyes to see Tyler Matzik out there striking out the side. I love it when he does that.
Yeah, me too. He's one of the biggest moments in 2021, certainly, that all Braves fans are going to look back at. Look, I didn't know going into spring training what really to expect come regular season time for Lee or Matzik, because Matzik in particular had good numbers in spring training, but the velocity is just still not there from what we're used to. But he's still able to get outs, and on this day, able to get it in a dominating fashion. And at this point, I think you just have to believe he's still able to be a really good reliever, even with the not average fastball of 93 and not 96, and still has obviously a very good slider, but kind of like with Charlie Morton, he was just relying on that fastball in this one. So great to see that from Tyler Matzik. Hopefully he can keep it up. And Dylan Lee, coming off a rough year, injuries, he has been phenomenal early in this season as well. So, I mean, those two lefties, what they're able to do, AJ Minter has looked fantastic. I know Bummer's had a couple of rough outings, but they carried those 4 lefties. And right now, at least 3 of them are looking really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, and Bummer, even in the loss on Sunday, was that close to getting out of it with that ground ball double play. Sometimes baseball can be a very cruel game. It is most certainly a game of inches, and it didn't work out for the Braves in that one. But, yeah, Dylan Lee, I felt like, was a glue piece for the bullpen in 2022. I mean, we know how important Tyler Matzik has been in his time in a Braves uniform, but Dylan Lee, the Braves missed him a lot last year, I believe, and that is why H.A. Minter ended up, I think, being as taxed as he was as the lone lefty in the Braves bullpen mix for a lot of the season. So great to have him back. But talking to Tyler Matzik back in spring training, I mean, he said, look, I'm going to come out here. My goal is to be ready opening day. I'm going to do everything that I can to show them that I am. And if they, for some reason, feel like I need to go on a quote-unquote rehab assignment and go figure some things out to build back up, then I'll do that. But the Braves felt confident about it. And one thing with Tommy John that I've noticed for a good number of pitchers is sometimes it takes a minute to rebuild all of that velocity. But as the season goes on, I think Tyler Matzik's going to find a mile an hour or two, maybe more, as he continues to work. That's just all part of the process of getting back.
It is. And look, you go back even before the Tommy John surgery where we already saw the velocity ticking down. You go back and look at the numbers for that year, and he was still pretty good. It wasn't that dominant guy that we saw in 2021, but overall the numbers, I mean, he mostly got the job done. It just wasn't that guy that struck out the side in 2021 NLCS. And again, looking at what he's done this spring and early on this season, he's still just getting the job done. So I think he can do it even with the loss in velocity, but certainly if he can get it back up there, 95, hitting 96 every now and then, I think it just could take him back to another level, being one of those big setup guys. But I like the point you made that having Lee and having Matzik really takes a lot of pressure off AJ Minter, who had to be the sole focus as that lefty in the bullpen last year. So big for the Braves that these two guys are kind of back to their former form before injuries hit.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where, or at least early in the season, when no Raisel Iglesias, AJ Minter was being asked to do even more. So it was impressive that he was able to, A, work through his own struggles and figure out a way to still be an important part of this bullpen. And then Alex Anthopoulos obviously realizing we'd like to have more lefties in the bullpen, getting Tyler Matzik and Dylan Lee back healthy, getting Aaron Bummer, having 4 relievers that you feel like you can choose from that should play important roles in various degrees of leverage and in various situations can be important for the Braves over the course of the season. And then from the right side, you got a lot of great options as well, with the figurehead, of course, being Raisel Iglesias, who'll be closing things down, but a lot of good options for this Atlanta Braves bullpen. As we continue, we're going to turn our focus to game 2 of this series as the Braves and White Sox will continue. Maybe the weather will be a little bit better as they play under the lights on Tuesday night in Chicago. We're going to find out if it will, but we'll be getting our first look at Reynaldo Lopez in a Braves uniform as far as the regular season debut is concerned, and his first start since 2022. He had only 1 start that year, first time back in the rotation in a few years. Braves are hoping that he's going to be able to help them out in that regard. We'll talk about the pitching matchup and game 2 of this series as we continue on the Braves Postcast. Fire TV is your destination for sports. From live games to highlights to in-depth analysis, Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs as well as with the Fire Stick. And you can plug in your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend of baseball or college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us here on Locked On, and most big pro leagues and college conferences are in there as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and so much more, not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Again, it's all there. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. And if you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Just trust me on this. Learn more by visiting Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Game 2 of the series for the Braves and the White Sox happening on Tuesday night. Braves have a chance to salt away another series victory with a win behind Reynaldo Lopez, who is no stranger to Chicago, spent the majority of his big league career there. Well-traveled, though, in 2023 He's back in the rotation for the first time on at least a semi-regular basis since 2021. Jake, the White Sox are going to be pretty familiar with Reynaldo Lopez. It wasn't that long ago that he was wearing that uniform, but his move to the bullpen coincided with a lot of success for him, as in 2019, he was one of the worst starting pitchers in all of baseball, and I think that precipitated the move to the bullpen, but he still has a big arm. He's got big stuff, a change of scenery, and the Braves believe that they've found something here that they want to explore as far as an option in their starting rotation. What are you looking for out of Reynaldo Lopez as he makes his first start in a couple of years and his debut in a Braves uniform?
Yeah, looking for that. Again, I'm talking about a lot on the postcast today, but looking at that velocity, because I think that's one thing for Lopez when he made the move to the bullpen, made him so successful, is that he had that big uptick in velocity. Now, I'm not expecting him to hit 98, 100 as a starter, but what does that look like? And even more importantly for me, what does that look like as the game goes on? And hopefully he does pitch deep into the game, but that's one thing that I'll be watching and something I was looking for in spring training. But spring training, you're not typically going very deep into the game anyway, but that's one thing I'm looking for with Lopez. What does that velocity look like as the innings go on? And again, hopefully he is able to throw a lot of innings. White Sox will be very familiar with him, as you said. But again, just that fastball slider combination, is he able to locate it? Is he able to calm the nerves a little bit, facing his old team, being in a starting role again with the Braves? It's a risk that I think is worth taking for the Braves. We'll see how things work out. It's nice to have a fallback option that he can go back to the bullpen, where I assume the velocity would tick back up to more 98s if you need to. But when you got an arm like that, and if you can keep it in the rotation and he can give you 5-6 strong innings like that as your 5th starter, it's certainly a risk that I think the Braves are willing to take and should be on Reynaldo Lopez. But hopefully they get this game in. Your weather report right now says it does not look good. 75 to 90% chance of rain pretty much all day on Tuesday. Possible snow coming in Tuesday night into Wednesday. So Wednesday's game's in question as well. But hopefully Reynaldo Lopez does get to make that first start in a Braves uniform.
Yeah, hopefully so, because we're going to spend all this time talking about it and getting everybody amped up and ready to see it. So it would be great if the game will happen, but many things we cannot control, including what the baseball gods decide to do with Tuesday and or Wednesday's game. But I will say this, and it's probably not breaking news to anybody. It still baffles me as to why exactly some of these games take place in some of the cities they do at the time of year that they do. And those cities are not climate controlled. They don't have a roof, and you're not able to, keep the snow out, as the case may be in Chicago. But putting that all of that aside, it's kind of an interesting matchup if, in fact, this thing does go through, and we're going to continue as though it will. Reynaldo Lopez, a starter turned reliever, turning back to a starter. Garrett Crochet, the lefty who's going to be on the mound for the White Sox, was a reliever, moving to the starting rotation. A really great start against the Tigers on his opening day assignment, and that's no small honor either for Garrett Crochet. I know everybody has to have an opening day starter. The White Sox traded Dylan Cease away, so that may have changed things for them, but 6 strong innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts for him against the Tigers. The Braves, though, Jake, we know they have feasted on left-handed starting pitchers or just lefty pitchers in general the last couple of years. So it's going to be a tough matchup for Crochet in his second career start.
It will be certainly a much tougher matchup for him. But talked about Crochet a lot yesterday. I watched the majority of his first start, and I mean, he was very, very electric. The one real positive, I think, for him in that start is just not the walks and being able to have good command, because it pretty much is just fastball and slider that he has, but it's a fastball that averaged 96.6 miles per hour in his first start. Slider obviously gets some big whiffs at almost 13 miles per hour difference between those two. But again, as you said, the Braves have feasted off lefties the last several years with this offense that they have. So hopefully they'll be able to attack him and be able to get to him just like they did Flexen on Monday. Again, it took a little while on Flexen. Might be the same thing with Crochet, an arm they're not very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that Braves lineup is just so good about figuring things out throughout a start and how to get to a pitcher. And look, as good as Crochet was and as dominant as he looked in his first outing, it is 2 pitches mostly with the fastball and slider. And I feel like against this Braves lineup, that's going to be very difficult to get through a lineup 2 or 3 times with just those 2 pitches. So we'll see. Again, a big arm in Garrett Crochet, great first outing. We'll see if he can follow up on that against the Braves lineup.
Yeah, and we'll see what he's able to do in terms of control, because for the course of his career, just over 4.5 walks per 9 for him. He's also averaging 10.5 strikeouts per 9. Again, the majority of this work coming out of the bullpen, as he has thrown just 79 career innings, including the 6 he threw against Detroit last time out, with a 2.62 lifetime ERA. So he was an effective reliever. Also missed the 2022 season, only made 13 appearances last year, but still just 25 years old. And the White Sox feel like they have something there. The Braves, meanwhile, putting Reynaldo Lopez on the mound for his first start since 2022. He was a 3.27 ERA. That's what he had last year in 68 games, 11.3 strikeouts per 9 for Lopez, who walked 4.6 batters per 9 as well. But as Jake mentioned, and as we've talked about, the Braves felt like this was the time to determine if Reynaldo Lopez can factor into the starting rotation. I do want to throw this note out there because I think it's worth monitoring. We all know that there are some other starting pitching options who are going to be working in Gwinnett to be ready for when the Braves need them. Heck of a start from Bryce Elder in his first outing for the Stripers. 6 1/3 innings of scoreless ball for him with 7 strikeouts. That's really just what you want to see every 5th day, is that Bryce Elder's putting in the work and ready, because I don't think we have seen the last time his name will be called in a meaningful outing for the Braves, because as we've learned, you can have the best laid plan for your rotation in April. A lot of things can change over the course of the season, and they can change pretty quick. We learned that last year.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of Bryce Elder this year. Big thing for him in that start, no walks. I mean, he's able to locate and he's able to limit the walks. He typically is very, very good, but certainly something he struggled with down the at the end of the season last year. Perhaps a little bit of tiredness from a long season for him, but when he's able to command those pitches on the edges, like we talk about a lot, and limit those walks, he can be very, very effective. But yes, I think we'll see a lot of Bryce Elder, AJ Smith-Shawver, and Hurston Waldrop hopefully this season.
That could be some exciting things. I know that is not necessarily what people want to hear, is who are going to be the guys that come up and, are thrown into the fire in some cases, but you have to have a plan and you have to have that depth. And Brian Snitker, in his meeting with the team on the very first full squad workout of spring training, said, look, we're going to use them all. So be ready, and we'll see how exactly that plays out. But they're going to be using Reynaldo Lopez against Garrett Crochet in Game 2 against the Chicago White Sox. 7:40 p.m. Eastern time is the scheduled first pitch. Again, a lot of inclement weather in the Chicago area. We'll see if the Braves and White Sox are able to get this game in, but that is the plan. Lopez and Crochet in Game 2. Braves looking for the series victory. That brings us to the end of this edition of the Braves Postcast. As always, we appreciate you riding along with us. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta right here on YouTube. Leave us those likes and comments. Share the video with a friend. Help us grow this channel. And subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Once again, the Braves with a 9-0 win in 8 innings over the White Sox on Monday. We'll be back at it on Tuesday after Game 2. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. Until then, so long, everyone.